Hey everybody! I'm Cameron.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Caitlin.
And this is the Watching You Watch podcast.
Anime edition!
Woo!
Yay!
So, hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. This is the Watching You Watch podcast, anime edition, where we are recapping Attack on Titan. And we are doing this with the theme that Zach and I have seen Attack on Titan before. And have read much of the manga, and
it's so good.
Caitlin has not.
I have not.
She's experiencing this all for the first time.
Feel my pain.
We are recording this on a wonderfully bleak, stormy night, so bear with us if the sounds of rain come
Crashing
in, I guess.
Yeah.
So today we are recapping a couple of episodes here. If you have followed along before with where we're at in the podcast and also where we're at in the show, if you've seen it before, this chain of episodes begins with the episode where Eren, Armin, and Mikasa are in the square, and they have to kind of argue for Eren's right to not be charged with treason and therefore, or maybe even killed right there. Mm-hmm. And it ends with the fight to reclaim Trost. And Eren is going to go into his Titan form and take a boulder and plug up the wall, but we just cut right before we see Eren kind of looks like he loses control, maybe? We don't know.
or not. He could be saving Mikasa. Yeah, love punch. Those aren't okay.
Yeah. Why don't you give us a more detailed recap of the highlights for you, Caitlin, of these 3 episodes that we watched today?
Alrighty. So, yeah, they're in the square, and the military's all like, oh my gosh, he's definitely a traitor. And Eren has no idea what has just happened. And he's super stressed out by all of the cannons pointing at him. But he is doing so much introspection that they don't really have a plan of how they're going to get out of this. And basically, if they make one wrong move, head military guy is going to just fire the cannon straight at them. And Mikasa's all like, I'll take on every single one of you. And then they're like, oh, wait, she's really awesome.
Yeah,
basically.
They're like, wait, before we shoot everyone, she's like, she was put on the elites and she's just a cadet.
Yeah, they're like, she's basically 100 soldiers. So, we might not want to do this. But then, and Armin, of course, is a genius. They're losing that, too. But, this guy doesn't really care. And he raises his hand. He's about to fire. And then all of a sudden, Eren instinctively bites his hand and becomes like half of a Titan. And I say half because he's all like skeletal, and the skeleton is like protecting Armin and Mikasa, but also like freaking the heck out of everyone else.
Yeah, it's like boom, instant rib cage.
Yes. And so that scares everyone, and Eren doesn't even know, like, how he has the power that he does, but basically, like, he's remembering some of the stuff that happened with his father and the weird injection and giving him the cellar key. And once again, it converges on the cellar, which is why I knew Eren was going to survive, because we don't know what's in there yet. Mm-hmm. I did say that, just so everyone knows.
Yeah.
So, anyway, at this point, they know he's not truly, like, straight up human anymore, because there's a Titan right in front of them. So, he gives Armin and Mikasa, like, 2 choices. He's like, we can either run or we can use Armin to use force persuade. And so they go with that plan. Armin, like, stands up for him, and he's like, we saw, him as a Titan taking down all the other Titans, and they were attacking him, and he's obviously good, and we don't know what he is, but we can use him as our strategic advantage, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And so then the captain is still, like, scared, like, poopless.
Yes.
And he is still not buying it, and he raises his hand, they're about to fire, and then Captain Pixie Dust comes in and grabs his hand, and he's like, I don't think you want to do what you're doing. And so he hears them out, and they decide, they're going to use Eren as the last-ditch effort to close the hole in the wall. So the theory is, let's get him to transform into a Titan so he can lift the boulder, plug the hole, and then we can rebuild from there and hopefully reclaim the outer wall. But not everyone's believing this, and they're scared that Eren's going to turn and all this stuff and that he doesn't have the strength or whatever. And, all the soldiers want to go home at this point because they've seen so much death and destruction. And then, once again, Captain Pixie Dust comes in. He's like, oh, you can all go if you want. And then, of course, reverse psychology, they all stay.
Yep, they all stay.
So that was pretty cool. And then Armin comes up with a plan that they're going to converge on one corner of the wall to bring the Titans to them as a bunch of like dangling meat.
Yep.
And that will free up the other corner with the hole so that Eren in Titan form can plug it. And they're going to take a group of elites to guard him as he does this. And, you know, just as they start to execute this plan, there's so much hope. And of course, I'm like, oh, when did we see this before? Like, something was going to go wrong.
Right.
So
The moment you have hope.
yeah, no, like hope is dead in this series.
Yeah.
So Eren does successfully become the Titan again, all based on some weird instinct. He doesn't really know what is happening yet. But then he goes up to the wall and Mikasa's all like, he can do this! And then he punches her in the face.
Yep, and that's basically where we leave this chain of episodes.
Yes.
It's not really in a good place for everybody at all.
No. Not at all.
I know it's really interesting, and when the anime first aired, this was sort of like the first major chunk of it, and we are coming to the close of this first major chunk of the first series of Attack on Titan here. So we'll have to see how things sort of culminate together here. So Zach, why don't you start us with our line of questioning for this?
Yeah, and something that happened early on in these episodes is we got to see the living Scout regiment, the one that they have now. So what were your thoughts on them?
Well, okay, so Levi's pretty cool. You know, like we jokingly called him Male-kasa.
Yes.
Because he's basically the man version of Mikasa. But he legitimately like cares about the soldiers underneath him, and he's awesome at killing Titans.
He is.
And like he even cares about this one who's clearly going to die. Like the soldier's not going to make it, but he like gives him those last words that like his death meant something. And like that obviously speaks a lot for his character. But we didn't see him like for the rest of the episodes. I'm curious what happens to him. But
yeah,
it
they're
was
kind of like
cool.
on the fringes of the battle, and they kind of hear everything happening, and they're like headed that way. But that's all we know right now where we leave them, and that kind of like that was happening along the same time that Eren first got eaten.
Right.
So we're not entirely sure where they're at this point in time, but maybe we'll see them soon again.
Yeah, because we could use a little bit of Mikasa, Male-kasa, you know, fighting.
Because, they were figuring it out. There's like, Titans are going that way. It's like, that's the wall. And they're like, well, crap.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. But they're a neat bunch, and we'll have to track with you as we see them again, maybe. Let's move on maybe to this question of, so we kind of see for the first time where Eren is inside of the Titan that ate him.
Yeah.
And there's this weird, like, disgusting scene where he's, like, in the stomach of the Titan, and he sees someone that maybe looks like his mom, but she sinks into the stomach acid or whatever, and, like, it's all very, like, morbid and gross, but even Eren sort of questions the reality of this moment inside of the Titan. So, my question for you is, do you think that was real, or do you think it was some sort of dream?
Well, see, that's a tough question. Because, honestly, it very well could be real because we know, since Eren survived, that he survived the stomach acid. And many of these people, because the Titans are so big, they are eaten whole. Yeah. Like, they may have limbs gone, but, you know, they're eaten whole. And at first, I was, like, waiting for Eren to do this weird, like, climb into the spinal cord thing, and that didn't happen at all. So, but of course, it makes sense later that we know he's actually been gifted with this power by his father somehow. Because, the whole climbing out of Santa Claus Titan, like, really confused me.
Keyblade Master.
Yeah, seriously, though. But... yeah, so the woman, she was calling out, like, to her family, though. Yeah,
she was, it wasn't quite clear, like, she's like, somebody help me.
Yeah.
But also, like Eren sees her, and his first, like, reaction is, like, he starts thinking of his mom.
Well, first of all, I think, like, that's just because he was thinking of the fact that she was eaten whole right in front of him, and obviously, like, it's not her. He knows that. But I think, like, just because the reality that he was also inside a Titan now, like, I think he was thinking, oh my gosh, this is what she faced. And we're assuming that she was dead before she hit the Titan's stomach.
True. It almost looked like the Titan, like, when she broke her back.
Yeah.
And then ate her.
But regardless, like, I don't know if it was completely real, but I think that parts of it were definitely real because obviously, like, that Titan, that one specifically, we had seen already eat a ton of people in that one scene.
Right.
So it's possible.
Yeah.
And gross.
Okay, and now we've gotten to see, like, a very wide, sweeping view of how the battle is going. And what overall do you think of humanity's army's effectiveness in this whole crisis situation?
Well, I think it was good to see, like, some of the former scouts are actually alive. Like, we just kind of we've only seen the decimation on one part of this, you know, so it's good to see that others are actually surviving. But at the same time, the fact that everybody comes and we start to see a lot of these soldiers losing their cool and, like, they've seen, you know, several squads at this point just torn apart and they just want to leave. And, of course, like, they're given the option and they don't, which was really cool. So I think they're definitely willing to pull for anything at this point, even though they're, like, you know, higher level thinking is telling them that they can't win this.
Yeah.
They still have to try.
Right.
So.
Well, it's interesting to point out, too, that this is, like, the first offensive
Yeah.
that they take
Yeah.
ever. Because everything they've done before is just, like, defensive. Like
We're running.
Yeah, we're running from the
Yeah.
Titans. We have to figure out how to, like, best prevent casualties. We have to do this, that, or the other thing to, like, save humanity. And it's always defensive. This is the first time that they've even attempted to try and take back something that the Titans
That's
have
true.
taken.
And they also, like, piled the bodies, which was interesting. Like,
Yeah, they
they're
took the Titan
using the
bodies,
Titan
yep.
bodies and they're piling them up as, like, a additional barricade.
Yep.
And, like, you know, they're definitely making strides in the right direction here.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, it's important to note, like you said, not even the Scout Regiment is on an offensive. They are reconnaissance
Yep.
at its root, which is sad because humanity is just so pushed into a corner they can't make an offensive. And then comes this crazy bald man with his flask of whiskey.
He
and
is
weird
awesome.
words.
Dot
Oh my
Pixis.
gosh.
Good
Dot
old
Pixis.
Dot Pixis. What are your thoughts on this dude?
He is friggin' awesome. Like, oh my gosh, his perspective on humanity. Like, he openly admits he's eccentric, but at the same time, he sees things more clearly than anybody else there. And it's great.
Yeah, he was introduced to us a couple episodes back where he was playing like chess with the Lord there, and we now fully get the extent of how just like off the wall this guy is, but also like incredibly smart. I love that scene on top of the wall where he just like gives that whiskey to Aaron,
Yes.
and he's like, "Here, have some," and then Aaron's just like,
Like,
"Oh, okay," and then he just like spits it everywhere.
Of course, like, Pixis knows that's gonna happen, so it was
Yes.
just funny. But yeah, he, like, admits that Aaron has enough of his personality that, like, they might just win this, you know?
Yeah.
Like, because you need to be eccentric and kind of weird to think of enough
Yeah.
to
You
fight
have
the
to think
Titans.
outside of the box in order to deal with them.
Yeah, and so he mentions this plan that, like, perhaps the Titans were introduced because humanity needed to come together. And you're like, wow, what a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah,
But at the same time, you're like, holy crap, like, what if that's true?
Yeah.
And it's really scary.
That sort of touches on my next question for you a little bit, which is there's this weird sort of off-the-cuff statement that Aaron makes to Mikasa about how, like, she's, like, blown away that Pixis is letting them go through with this plan, and then Aaron, like, says something to the effect, like, oh, well, I get it now. It's because he realizes that Titans aren't the only enemy.
Yeah. I'm
What
like,
did you make of that?
Okay, first of all, I was like, what the heck else is out there? And then then I started thinking about it more, and I was like, oh my gosh, is he talking about, like, this inner circle that we haven't really gotten a huge glimpse of yet? But obviously, like, you know, people have been sort of, you know, herded. There's this constant
Right.
theme of cattle and whatever to these outer villages to protect the inside. And it's like, is this all just a power trip? And then they bring up again the 20% of the population that was killed in the initial wave, 5 years ago. And they were like, you know, we went into this knowing that we were going to lose these people. And it's like, then why do it? But,
Right.
like, they did.
He even kind of points out a little bit like, hey, like, we have this sort of insurmountable foe who's coming at us from all sides, and we still behave like human beings do. We hurt each other. We steal from each other. We inflict harm upon each other for our benefit,
Right.
you know? And, like, you get clips of kind of like the bullies that were picking on Armin
Yep.
and whatnot in the past, and then the whole point is, like, this hasn't changed humanity's perspective on
Right.
itself, you know? And he's just like, it's a kind of interesting commentary, I think, on like the people who are left living there. Like he says, like, we have this debt to pay, basically, of guilt, because we let 20% of humanity die and we haven't changed.
Yeah.
So he's
Exactly.
like, so this is our moment where we say, this is where we draw the line. This is where we're like, we're taking a stand, not just for against the Titans, but for taking a stand for the good of humanity.
Right, because like there were all the other higher ups in the military threatening to kill those who were going to defect, and it was like, you know, do this or die sort of thing. And then he's all like, no, go home if you feel like it.
Yeah.
And then they were like, wait, what? There's an
Families,
option?
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, and then they thought about like what it meant for them to actually stand and fight for someone, not just for survival, but for someone. And like it was such a cool perspective, and I'm like, I love this guy.
Well, let's move on to our last question we have before our weekly wrap-up questions. And before the ending you saw of this episode, where Eren kind of looks like he loses control, what did you think of Armin's plan? Did you think it was going to work, or do you still think it's going to work?
So Armin is always the man with the plan. He's a friggin' genius. And I think it's great that everyone's actually listening to his plans, because he doesn't give himself enough credit as the voice of reason of this group. And his plan, in theory, is really, really good. But then I feel like in some regards, they have to act fast because they have a window. But at the same time, it seemed like they jumped right into this. And Eren doesn't know enough about his abilities yet. And to just throw him into literally a do or die plan, like, they're going to lose people. Was it Rico?
Yep, Rico.
Yeah.
What she says about that. She's like, you got to make sure that you know that this plan's going to cost.
And he's all like, I can do this. And I was like, no, you can't. As soon as you said that, like, that's exactly what happened before.
The last time you said we could do this, everybody died.
Exactly. I just wish he would have been a little more like, I hope I can do this. And then everyone would be like, oh, yeah, you can. He's like, you're right. This is going to go fine. Not I can do this.
That's not really in Eren's character.
I know.
Eren's not the first one to be like,
No.
oh, I don't know, you know.
I know. See,
That's more
Armin
like
would make a
Armin,
better
yeah.
Titan.
I can't imagine Armin as a Titan.
I'm just picturing like Titan Armin with that like
With
mop
abs.
top of blonde hair and like abs.
Strategic advantage.
And he's like, he's like being like striking out of the shadows, and he's like commanding other Titans to move around.
Yes.
He'd be like, he would stop for the other Titans, put his fingers, and be like, no.
We don't
No.
need to fight.
Shakes his hand, gives him his business card.
Yeah. Now I'm wondering what a Mikasa Titan would be like.
Boss.
Kill everything.
Yes. There wouldn't be any walls anywhere.
There wouldn't be anything left. It would just be Mikasa Titan.
Yeah. But
She'd be
yeah.
like, well, I killed
Or-
everything.
Or maybe she's just like too tough to become a Titan. Like she would just be perfected. She would be like a small Titan. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't
I
think-
kind of like mutually assured destruction Mikasa Titan. Like everything's just gone.
I think that she would like turn into a Titan and it would just like everything would explode. Like
Yes.
the world couldn't handle it.
She's like an A-bomb if she were to turn into a Titan. Just boom.
Just boom.
Well, that's the way of things. So.
Yeah, it's just one of things.
But yeah, back to the initial question. Like, I just knew there was too much riding on this for this to work. That's exactly it. That's the way the show breaks your heart. And so at the end, we could go with my initial theory of he's punching Mikasa out of the way to save her life, right? But in reality, I don't know what the heck is going to happen.
No. Well, we'll have to wait
know.
and see with these next few episodes we have that are finishing out the first main arc here.
Maybe he was angry because he didn't stick the landing.
Maybe.
Oh no. Well, Zach, why don't you kick us off with our weekly wrap-up questions here?
All right. So, in this whole set of episodes, if you had any lingering questions, what one would you like to have answered?
Man. Okay. What the heck is in the cellar?
Again, we're going back to the
No.
cellar.
Okay, that's definitely a burning question for the series so far. But for just this week, I would say that I want to know why he only partially formed a Titan before. Like, what exactly is controlling his Titan transformations?
Yeah.
Because, like, he makes this comment about how I get what I need when I need it, but what does that even mean?
Right.
You know? And so I want to
the
know.
room of requirement.
Yeah.
Version.
So he just like formed a partial Titan because, you know, a rib cage needed to save Mikasa and Armin.
Yes.
But
there you go.
but still, like, I want to know what his power actually is.
Yeah.
So
That's a good question to have. So this set of episodes might have been a little bit lighter on like all the cadets before, but it may be more centric on Eren, Armin, and Mikasa. But I was just wondering who your cadet of the week would be for this set of episodes.
Armin.
Wait, it wasn't Dennis?
Dennis? Wait, no, Daz. That's the name of the guy who's freaking out down there.
I thought it was Dennis.
No, it's Daz.
Darn.
He's
Daz?
the guy,
Oh,
Daz.
okay.
D-A-Z. He's the one who's just
D-A.
like, we're all gonna die.
I was honestly just...
Kill myself.
I was waiting for Mikasa to just shove bread in his mouth like
Yeah.
like 5 years ago.
He also coined the term Titan candy.
Titan candy.
Yeah.
That's right. You're gonna dangle me in front of them like Titan candy?
Yeah, it definitely was not him. But no,
No.
like Armin, I know it's redundant, but like he's honestly the most steadfast character so far.
It's true. He develops like quite a lot, I feel like, in this chain of episodes. He really comes into his own. Like witnessing the horrors of what happened with Eren there and everything, like it changes him. You know, and there's this moment I really love where Armin is kind of flashing back to all these sort of emblematic moments for him and Eren and Mikasa, and he realizes like there's no way I can ever pay them back.
For all they did.
All they've done for me, but I've got to try, and I've got to do it in the way that I know how, and this is what I know how to do.
Oh, I like
was
it
awesome.
a little bit more in the fact that he figured out that he has been. When Eren even points out, it's like, if you hadn't gotten to Hans, we wouldn't have been
That's
here
true.
now.
Yeah, I forgot
That
about
was
It's like
cool
the moment
too.
where Aron's like, holy cow, like, and he like finds his niche, and he's like, no, it's okay for me to be this way and to do this, and that's when he like gets his
I may
resolve
not
and
be the
confidence.
strongest fighter like Eren and Mikasa, but you know I know what I'm good at, and I need to use that.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, on that note, what were your top good feels and top bad feels this episode?
Ooh, okay. So good feels would just be watching Armin's screaming match in front of the general. That was pretty awesome. In terms of like epicness, like good feels
It
in
is really
terms of
epic.
humor would be like, you know, Pixis handing Eren the whiskey and just Pixis in general.
Yes.
But in terms of epic good feel, Armin doing what he does best.
Yes.
Being logical.
He's our Spock.
Yes. He
Spock of the
is.
group.
He's the emotional Spock.
Emotional Spock. That's
Emotional
funny.
Spock. He's an eternal pen fighter.
Oh my gosh.
But then, yeah, bad feels. Okay, probably when I'm like torn. I'm torn between the moment where Levi is telling the soldier that his death is worth something, because like that's one of those like, did he hear it? And you can't really tell if he's lying or not. You know, that was just sad because it's like, once again, intimate destruction.
Right.
And also the tail end just being like, this isn't working, punch.
No.
Aw.
Yeah. I'll agree. Definitely with the first one for me is like, oh my gosh, this hurts so much.
It
and I don't
did.
even really know these characters.
No, like
well.
that was what was so cool about these totally new characters, and like all of a sudden you're emotionally invested.
Yeah, it's very much like the very beginning of it, where it doesn't take you very long to get emotionally invested in the story of Eren, Armin, and Mikasa.
Yeah.
Levi, that one guy, and the girl.
And
Petra.
Yeah.
That was her name.
She's like you said, older Sasha.
Yeah.
No, that's Hanji, who I think he's
Oh,
was like.
Hanji.
Yes, Hanji's the one that wears the goggles, and she's a little bit zany. And I love that line where she's just like, "Oh, we might meet an abnormal Titan out there. It'll be so exciting." And he's like, "I think we found an abnormal one right here." And she's like, "Oh, where is it?"
Yeah, that was another good feel that I sort of bypassed there.
So, looking back at all we got and where we're at right now, how screwed is humanity? Yeah, 1 to 10. 1 being they're gonna be pretty okay, and 10 being all is hope is lost.
Well, I know I put them at a 6 last week because it was like, yay, we have a Titan on our side, and now the Titan might not be on our side. So
Oh, you're on very wishy-washy.
Dang, I think I'm gonna put him at a 7.5 again.
Okay.
Oh,
So we've gone up a little bit, though, just because we got a plan.
Yeah,
I'll agree with it.
We have a plan. It may not have gone as well so far, but we have a plan. And we have Pixis.
We do have picks.
Yay!
So
He's a little late to the party, but better late than never.
right.
Oh, he gets that logic.
Yes. Well, there we have it. That was the section of Attack on Titan. We're getting close to the end of the first half here.
Goodness, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited to get into the second half of it. That's honestly where my favorite stream of episodes comes in. But for now, if you'd like to connect with us, if you got questions for Caitlin that are maybe about the second half of the show, that you know would be good leading questions to ask her, you can go ahead and send them our way. You can connect with us on YouTube. We are at Useful NPCs on YouTube. That's our YouTube channel. We're also at Useful NPCs on Twitter, where you can contact us there. We also have a Tumblr blog, so you can check us out there. There's fun stuff there occasionally. It happens. So yeah, and if you'd like to check out our other videos too, Zach and I also have a earlier version of Watching You Watch, where we did Game of Thrones. So if Game of Thrones is your bag, you can check those out there as well. And we're going to be picking up with that soon enough here. I'm excited to get into season 2 of Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Zach, how do you feel?
I am ready for equal parts sadness and excitement.
And before we jump into that too, our plan is to do sort of a summary episode of season 1, where Zach will try to like summarize everything that happened in season 1.
I don't remember 8 names.
They're
all gone.
Luckily for you, Caitlin, there's not a season 2 of Attack on Titan out yet. Because
2016.
because
So happy.
you would have to recap all of this when we jump back into season 2.
Don't
Oh
worry,
my.
we're gonna give her a whole daggone year.
So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, as always. We'll have to catch you next time when we finish the battle for Trost.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, get the inspirational Shia LaBeouf stuff.
Oh my gosh. No. I'm going to put the kibosh on that and say no. I'm trying to think of other like motivational like memes that we could like use instead.
The Titan intensifies.
Titan intensifies? I don't know. That was just sad, not motivational.
Dubstep cannon.
Dubstep cannon. Rico fires the dubstep cannon. Wow. I guess it's dubstep flare, but you know.
The dubstep flare.
Nuance.
These jokes have no bearing at all on anybody who's listening to this right now, because they weren't here when we were talking about this while we were watching it.
To watch the show. It really helps. If you're watching this without watching the show, I love you as a person. And I look forward to you listening next week.
I have no clue how you're following along.
You poor soul.
You are probably a very smart person.
Yeah, you are. I believe in you, and you're also probably beautiful.
Okay, come on, guys. Like, put a stop on this.
Okay, yep. Well, we'll catch you next time then.
Alrighty.
Love
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.